I suggest you take a hard look at the interest rates you're paying on your credit cards, car loans, or anything else. With today's low mortgage rates and rising home values, why not refinance with Owning? Pull some cash out of your home and take control of high-interest debts. Call Owning at 8332-OWNING or log on to owning.com. In minutes at no cost or obligation, our experienced agents can tell you how much money you have sitting in your house. Then refinance at today's 30-year fixed 2.5% rate 2.731 APR. And use some of that low-interest money to pay off debts, do things around the house, or for anything you want. Your house may be your piggy bank.
NMLS 2611, licensed by the Department of Financial Protection and Innovation under the California Residential Mortgage Lending Act, subject to credit approval for qualified borrowers. Call 833-303-2161 for terms and conditions. Equal housing lender.
Call Owning at 8332-OWNING or log on to owning.com. That's 8332-OWNING or go to owning.com.
Man, there are a lot of podcasts out there.
Definitely. I mean, there's 3 million shows, 50 million episodes, and more every day.
I mean, who has the time to figure out which ones are the best podcasts?
We do. That's who. What's up, guys? I am Alicia Renee.
And I'm Dax Holt.
And we are your hosts of Pod Sauce, a podcast discovery show.
Look at us as your podcast concierge.
We do all the work for you. We listen to the shows, review them,
pick the best episodes, and interview the hosts.
Pod Sauce. Let us help you find your next binge. Tell them where to go, Dax.
Go to podsauce.com.
You watch this Vikings team, it is a horror show, and every single game is the same. Brian Murphy writes just that. Purple Insider, what a horror show. The Vikings are a broken team with a broken record excuse. Or I guess with broken record excuses, plural. We have Murph here. He's a columnist with Purple Insider. Murph, there's a lot of bad things from last night. What was the worst thing from last night?
Clock management, or lack thereof, as usual, both at the end of the half and, as you mentioned in your Twitter feed, calling 2 consecutive timeouts in a row, which, of course, is illegal and contributed mightily to Dallas scoring their game-winning touchdown. That is what I think perplexes me and angers fans so much is you have an opportunity at the end of the half. You've got about 37 some odd seconds left. You got a pretty good offense, a quarterback that, when shoved against the wall can come up with some plays and march you down the field to get some points. And, oh, by the way, you even had a timeout. And instead, what do you have? You got Cousins running. You got Cousins getting tackled. You got a fire drill. Nobody knows what's going on. Everybody's running around. You're burning precious seconds. Then you spike the ball. Then you call timeout. Or no, you never did call timeout. There's 1 second left, and then you take a knee, and you get booed off the field. I mean, these are the kinds of errors that have had – I mean, the Vikings have called consecutive timeouts twice this season, and they also called a timeout that they didn't have a few weeks back against Cleveland, which also resulted in a penalty. I mean, that's the worst thing to me. But there's plenty of 1A and 1B and 1C to go over, too.
Yeah, and you bring up that's a great point because it's not just that, right? That's a microcosm of everything else that's going on, and it is chaos, and it has felt like that from the very beginning. I think as they reported for training camp, it just felt odd. Something felt off. Something felt odd. It has felt very tense around here for a very long time, seemingly going back to last year. I think everybody kind of knew we need to win this season, and it just has kind of felt that way. And I guess, too, I would think in my thought process here would be like, okay, if Mike Zimmer knows this is his last season, unless, right, you put together a great season, you win the division, you go deep in the playoffs, I think that was the baseline. I think that everyone's kind of aware of that. So why not play to win? Because they never play to win. They play to lose, not to lose every single week. It's like the same story. It's incredible.
And you can feel that in the play calling, the lack of execution, lack of urgency, confusion, untimely mistakes. You're right. They play not to lose. And you can't succeed in the NFL, not in 2021, playing that conservatively, especially on offense, especially when you have the weapons and the experience that you do on offense. Look, the Vikings were handed a gift last night. An hour and a half before the game, Dallas decides, you know what, we've got a superstar franchise quarterback who's got a wonky calf muscle. They put him through the rigors of a workout and decided, you know what, we're on the road, but you know what? We're going to save our guy because what? We're 6-1. We're playing with house money. We're going to go with a guy named Cooper Rush. And what does Cooper Rush do? Basically starts apparently his long journey to Canton because he puts up 325 yards, 2 touchdowns against the Vikings at home. How do you drop that ball? Look, if they'd have lost to Prescott and the Cowboys,
yep,
in a tough one, everybody'd be more forgiving. But now you're looking at 2 road games at Baltimore, at the Chargers, and then you've got probably a reckoning coming November 21st with Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. You had to at least split these 4 games to remain relevant. Now you're almost going to have to run the table.
Yeah. We're talking with Brian Murphy here, columnist for Purple Insider. You can subscribe, purpleinsider.substack.com. I've kind of always thought, the Wilfs, they're not going to fire Mike Zimmer during the season just because they've, and I don't think Mike Zimmer's teams, they never, at least historically, have not just totally quit on him. Even in 2016, where it kind of fell apart, they still ended up 8-8, and in the first year they were 7-9, last year 7-9, and so I don't think, personally, I don't think that they're going to just completely tank and fall apart and be totally uncompetitive. That to me would be the only way he would get fired in the season. But I'm starting to wonder now, because I do wonder if he's losing that locker room, and if they go out and get blown out by Baltimore and then the Chargers, I don't know about you, Murph. The only issue is they don't really have anybody internally that you want to get a look at, but it would just be signaling it didn't work, we're moving on, I guess.
Yeah, the last time that happened back in 2010, the infamous 2010 season when the roof literally fell in on them, they played a home game, I want to say just before Thanksgiving, against Green Bay as well, and got blown out 34 to whatever. And the crowd was chanting at the Metrodome, "Fire Childress." It was untenable. The team had quit on him. The fan base had turned its back. The Wilfs had to do what they had to do. They fired Brad Childress. The season was lost. But they also had defensive coordinator Leslie Frazier in the wings, kind of a head coach in waiting. So they gave him that trial. I don't know who they have right now. Andre Patterson's the most experienced option, but if they were to fire Zimmer today or next Monday or even 2 Mondays from now after the LA game, you're going to have the locker room, wave the white flag. You're going to have the fan base turn its back. So the optics of it, it's more than just a football decision. It's what are you presenting to the public at that point? If they do struggle and then do get blown out against Green Bay, I think all bets are off, however. But at 3-4, they can still claim a mathematical chance, even though it feels like a complete uphill battle at this point to get to the playoffs. But, as cathartic as it might feel for people to shove Zimmer out the door, then what? And now you've got 10 more weeks of then what? So yeah. I think there's a lot more consideration than just what happens on the field.
Yeah, and I think you're right, because I think that's kind of what I was thinking too, is that, unless they just, get blown out, then maybe. But at that point, you can always convince yourself, like, hey, we're hanging in here, you get a win there. Maybe he can, we want to give him, he's been here 8 years, we want to give him the full season to see if he can spark something. He's earned that, and also, too, the team kind of still fighting. Then you could sort of convince yourself while also convincing the fans, well, hey, you never know, or whatever. But if these next 3 weeks are blowouts, then I have no idea. And then let me ask you this. What about Spielman and Kirk? Because at the end of all this, I think at the end of the season when they end up, 7-10 or whatever, you're going to go, all right, it did not work. It cannot work. And to me, that means starting over. That's GM, head coach, even quarterback, which I know a lot of people this morning have been texting, how are you going to move Kirk? Look, there's going to be a team that has a good defense and a strong offensive line that says, all we need is that one piece, just like the Vikings. And I think, he's only 33. You can extend him. I think the list would be, there would be a list of teams that say, sure, yeah, we would, let's talk.
Well, I think all 3 of these guys are intrinsically linked. I called it at the beginning of the season the triangle of reckoning with Zimmer, Spielman, and Cousins. I don't think you fire one and keep 2, fire 2 and keep 1. I think They all stay or they all go. Now, the timing of it may be different. But if Mike Zimmer, if Rick Spielman has to fire Mike Zimmer, then ownership has to consider seriously firing Rick Spielman, because this is his coach. It was his decision to bring Kirk Cousins in. It's his roster. It has been his roster. They're all running out of scapegoats here. I mean, Zimmer's already tossed overboard 2 offensive coordinators. He doesn't seem too enamored with Clint Kubiak, who, by the way, he hired. He's not very enamored with his quarterback. There's only so many fingers you can point without looking into a mirror. That goes to Spielman. And for Cousins, look, he's 33. He's baked in as a finished NFL product. If you can't succeed with him right now, you do need to move on. So, tomorrow's the trade deadline. I don't see them making a quick move, but there are some teams out there, New Orleans Saints, that may need a quality starter and may be willing to throw out some future draft picks to sweeten the pot. I don't think that's going to happen, but I do think there is some serious consideration between now and the end of this month, and certainly the end of this season. Either all 3 of these guys stay or all 3 of them go.
Yeah. Murph, we always appreciate you, man. Thanks for checking in again this morning.
All right, sounds good. Have a good week, guys.
Yeah, Brian Murphy there, columnist for Purple Insider.
Hi, I'm John Favreau, host of Crooked Media's new weekly series, Offline with John Favreau. If you feel like the internet is breaking our brains, but you still can't put the phone down, this show might help. Each week, I'll be talking to people like Monica Lewinsky, Megan Rapinoe, Peter Hamby, and DeRay McKesson about all the ways our extremely online existence is shaping politics, media, entertainment, sports, business, and more. New episodes of Offline with John Favreau drop every Sunday on the Pod Save America feed. Listen on Odyssey or wherever you get your podcasts.
I heard the Federal Reserve may raise interest rates.
Yes, in fact, mortgage rates have already started going up on the rumors.
That's why we just refinanced with Owning. We got a 30-year fixed 2.5% rate, 2.731 APR. And we also took thousands out in cash to use for a bunch of other things. Owning made the whole process fast and easy.
Waiter, check please. I'm going to call Owning and lock in my refi now.
Call Owning at 8332-OWNING or go to owning.com and lock in a 30-year fixed refi at today's 2.5% rate, 2.731 APR. That's 8332-OWNING or owning.com.
NMLS 2611, licensed by the Department of Financial Protection and Innovation under the California Residential Mortgage Lending Act, subject to credit approval for qualified borrowers. Call 833-303-2161 for terms and conditions. Equal housing lender.
Call Owning at 8332-OWNING or log on to owning.com. That's 8332-OWNING or owning.com.
From C13 Features, a new kind of listening experience.
He's back!
Help me!
Get out of there.
It's here.
No, don't let them in.
You can experience Treat, a podcast movie starring Kiernan Shipka, for free on Odyssey, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you listen to your podcasts. Grab some popcorn and enjoy the show.